Andrew, what you got?
I mean, I do. I would like to actually go through this because I don't understand how you make the argument, you're not a biological woman, therefore blank. Because by your worldview, if I just self-ID'd as being the thing, and then claimed I had the same experience that a biological woman has, even if I claimed that it's the overly masculine experience that I'm used to, you could have no argument against that unless you are making the distinction between a biological woman and a self-ID'd woman. Are you making the distinction between the two?
Andrew, what I was going to say is that I do not think this concept is too complex for you to understand. That's not what I'm getting at here. I think that this topic in itself is so complex that I personally, me speaking like truly, do not have a yes or no answer. I'm not saying that I don't have an answer for you. I just don't have an answer. I solely don't.
Well, I can't. We're not going to get bogged.
So assume for a second. Let me just make sure I got this right, and then sure, I'll turn it over to Brian for whatever he wants. I just want to make sure I got this right. You are unsure whether or not, based on just self-ID, I could or could not have the same experiences as a biological woman. I just want to make sure that we got that on record.
It's not that I'm unsure. I think it's more dependent on a case-to-case basis. That's all I'm saying. And I'm not saying that that the topic is too complex for you to understand. I think you fully understand it. That's not what I'm getting at here. I'm not trying to invalidate your opinion. I'm not.
Well, we can't stay bogged down on this for too long. So I have a couple questions I'd like to ask. So when Andrew was talking about, this being perhaps the ultimate thing that a woman could do in her life, and you said, well, I have plenty of things. I don't know specifically what you said. You said there's plenty of things that I can begin.
I can clarify for you. I remember what I said. I said there are plenty of things that I'm more looking forward to than childbirth and reproducing and multiplying my own genes right now. I can personally think of many things.
What are some of those? Yeah.
Okay, I want to live abroad right now, so I'm more at my current place in life right now, I am more looking forward to living abroad, going to grad school, graduating from grad school, meeting a future partner, doing all of these things. And I have another question to pose. If someone were unable to have biological children, right? Would you still argue that her greatest purpose in life is to reproduce? Would you still argue that?
Well, I wasn't really making the argument, but she's incapable of reproducing, so if she can't reproduce, she can't reproduce, so she could go off and find something else. But I guess my question to you is, one, you could do all of those things and also have children, but I guess what I often hear is, when it comes to there are better things than having children, it's typically in pursuit of a career.
I think that is a common argument. I think that it honestly is subjective. I myself personally have never had the desire to have children, if I'm being fully honest.
Sure, that's fine.
Yeah.
But I'm not
saying that some women's purpose isn't to be moms. I think that's totally fine. I know some people who enjoy motherhood. It's the thing that they're meant to do, and I'm not trying to invalidate that. I think that women should just simply have the choice if that is what they want to do or not.
Right.
I don't think we're making the argument that they shouldn't have the choice. I think the argument we're trying to make, it is probably the most selfless and most altruistic and most impactful thing they could do upon the world is reproduce, have children, be a mother.
Here's another counter thing. Say I didn't have children biologically. I adopted.
Yeah.
And I saved kids from an instance where they're refugees, they don't have the proper resources, they don't have social provisions given to them, and I give them a life in a developed nation, and I provide them all the loving care that a biological mother possibly could. Would you argue that that's still just as altruistic and selfless?
It would be noble of you.
Sure, but somebody else had to do the replicating. So the thing is, somebody still had to replicate and fulfill their highest purpose in order for you to then fulfill your highest purpose.
Yes, I'm not denying that a woman has to bear children, but okay. Anyways.
Wait, so okay, look, I'll just kind of get to the point here. So Do you think working for some nameless corporation and being a worker drone is generally more fulfilling than having children?
I think that for some women, if they find a career that they are extremely passionate about, yes, it could. Is that
Do you
purposely?
think most women have
Probably
careers they're
not.
passionate about?
I think that I wish they did. I think it's really hard to find something that you're that passionate about and be able to turn it into a living. I would argue that that's not my purpose in life. I don't think that is a lot of people's purpose in life. But like how you said earlier, like,
What do you want to do for work?
what do I
Like,
want to do for work? I
yeah.
want to be a lawyer.
A lawyer. Okay, what kind of law?
I want to go into employment law, and I want to deal with like workers' comp cases.
Okay, and do you think that, when you're on your deathbed and you're looking back, do you think that you'll think, if, in comparison, if you had children, do you think it'd be more fond memories of having children around you, or when you're in your old age, if you have children, grandchildren, do you think that would be kind of more desirable than like looking back on the fond memories of that employment lawsuit that you just scorched? You killed it.
Well,
If it was for a better
obviously
cause.
not, but I think it's a very broad assumption to assume that I won't be surrounded with children in a different sense. Like, my little brother wants to have children. I'm looking forward to being an aunt. I love kids. I do. I work as a nanny. I work with a 3-year-old and an 8-year-old right now. I want to volunteer as a teacher abroad for a few years. It's not that I don't love children. I think that they're amazing. I love being able to see things through the perspective of someone who's seeing it with fresh eyes. I think it's such an amazing thing. I'm not denying that. And I would love to be an aunt. I would love to volunteer with children in the future. I personally just don't think being a mother is for me personally.
All right,
Okay,
so hold on. So, okay, I think one of the criticisms of feminism is I don't think most people actually have any objections to, look, if a given women, if they don't want to have children or they'd rather pursue a career over starting a family, I don't think anyone really cares. I think one of the criticisms of feminism is its actual attack on women who do choose to have families and who want to, for example, go have kids, be a mom, be a stay-at-home mom.
Yeah.
They think that that's some sort of form
Less than.
of oppression.
Oh, I don't think it is. I think it's solely, and I've said this
But-
term so many times, I think it's a case-to-case basis.
Well, sure. Anyways, I'm going to move it on a little bit here.
Well, just one last question, if you don't
Okay,
mind.
and
Just,
then Mason
on the,
had
on the
something
topic of
quick, though.
altruism, let me ask you a question. Because you brought up the idea of altruism, would you agree with me that highly educated and intelligent women tend to actually procreate less than people who are in poor socioeconomic conditions and have less intelligence?
That's a rough line. I don't know.
No, it's not rough. I mean,
mean-
it's
Yeah, I need
poor,
an answer
poor,
on this
poor
to move along,
poor
please.
people reproduce more than rich people do, generally speaking, and especially upper class people. That is just the case.
That could be related to resources and
Yeah,
I would
I'm not
agree.
disputing any of that. It could be related to all sorts of things, but it is a
like
fact that
education levels and like opportunity to find
Yeah.
other things that you find purpose in.
generally the more educated a person is, the less they procreate.
Yeah,
Okay,
This
go
is
ahead.
true.
I
This is the truth.
disagree.
Now,
Go ahead.
That's
Go
the,
ahead.
the
I
reason I
agree there.
asked this question, well, I'm sorry, he was moving it along. I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead.
It's okay. I understand, and it's okay.
Oh, yeah, so.
I agree there is a-
Okay, well, my bad.
Sorry,
I'm not,
I'm-
one of us has to go, so you
It's
go.
hard over Zoom, I understand, but I don't mean to cut you off either. I think there is a correlation between education and higher levels of employment. That being said, it's also because these people with higher education have better insurance, better access to health care, more access to birth control. I think that also is a factor in it.
And they have less children.
Yes, I do think they have less children on
Yeah.
average. It's
So
seen in
here's the thing,
globally, too.
so then what you're doing, right? If you're truly altruistic, wouldn't you want the children of the future to be the smartest? And if you wanted them to be the smartest, shouldn't you be reproducing more than the dumbest people are?
I don't think it's an
I mean,
I think it's more resources than genetics personally. I'm going to be honest, I'm not personally well versed in this subject, so take whatever I'm saying with a grain of salt right now. I'm not acting like I know everything on this subject. I think that if a child was to have the proper education, proper environment to develop, a good childhood versus impeccable genetics, I think that would play a bigger role.
Yeah, I'm not even
personally.
talking about genetics. I'm just saying that If it were even so that it's resources based, and it must be, because nourishment, for instance, correlates with IQ. If you're young and you're malnourished, your brain is it becomes deformed, literally.
Yes.
It doesn't grow to its potential. So this is a massive problem. But to hone in here, if you have the best and brightest women who are out there in the workforce instead of procreating, regardless of if it's due to resources or genetics, the future generations are going to be dumber than the previous generations, right?
I mean, I would like to
Hang on, let her answer.
Okay.
I would argue that there's different ways in order to impact a child's upbringing than just being their mother. And I don't think, too, that...
That's not an answer to my question. It really isn't. That's a total evasion of my question. If the people who have the resources and are the best and the brightest and the smartest women, if we're wasting them in the workforce instead of them reproducing, how are we not going to end up with dumber generations of children?
I do see your point a little bit here. I think you do have a valid argument. And I will say, I respect your argument. My thing is that, on average, that's not what we're seeing is happening here. I think that, on average, more educated women with higher salaries do tend to have less children, on average, right? That doesn't mean
the future of our future generations are going to be smarter or less smart?
I think it more so depends on the resources that you have accessible to you. It depends on the school district that you're living in. I think it depends on
I guess what Andy's trying to get to is if those women who are smart, educated, have the most resources, therefore they should be having the most children because they have the most resources, education to train them up and create a bright future for us all.
Yeah. Why would I want to waste the best and the brightest of the only people who can replicate their genetics going and working for a boss in some fucking cubicle when they could be reproducing the next generation
and actually
of women who can then reproduce the best and the brightest and the best, et cetera, et cetera. That seems absurd to me.
But don't you see a lot of cases where there are families that are in that position and can but don't, right? But those people that do, their children are worse than the children that doesn't necessarily have to do with I swear to God, it has nothing to do. It has nothing to do. That has nothing to do with that. Because those smart people can have children, and their children won't end up how you want it to be because they're bad parents.
That's great. Thank you for that.
They could be awful
parents. You need to watch the movie Idiocracy. You'll understand everything.
All right,
it's not that hard to understand. It's hard to understand if you've never been in a situation or a different country. I grew up in a country where...
Cool. Yep. Heard you. Good. Okay, let's bring it back to patriarchy. We kind of derailed there a little bit, but it was good. So I guess some quick questions here. Do we currently live in a patriarchy?
I would say patriarchy is not a physical place. So in that sense, no, but yes, we do live under a patriarchal society. Yes.
Okay. And under patriarchy, are women oppressed?
I would say yes.
Okay. Under patriarchy, are men oppressors?
Not always. I think that sometimes yes, but also like I was explaining earlier, women can also be oppressors.
Okay. But you did say that women are oppressed under patriarchy.
Yeah, but I also think that sometimes too men can be oppressed by ideals of toxic masculinity as well.
Okay. So are you oppressed?
I would say relative to other populations, no. I'm a white cis woman. I have experienced different forms of sexism, patriarchal norms that have affected me and had that have classified as a form of oppression. Would I say that the category I would put myself into is oppressed? It's hard for me to say. I think that as a woman, I experience forms of oppression that the average man wouldn't.
Such as?
Such as, can I use in just two letters?
Sure.
SA, DV, those occur to women at much, much higher rates. They can still occur to men, but those are issues that women experience.
It's not clear to me,
rates.
Wouldn't that be something that occurs on the individual level? How would it be evidence of oppression? Because typically you're thinking of a system would be oppressing you, or a government would be oppressing you, or the patriarchy would be oppressing you. But it's not clear to me. So you said DV and you said SA. I don't see how that's necessarily evidence of oppression.
Okay. I can explain my logic behind it if you